Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, we're going to be talking about team instructions in Football Manager, when to use them, how to use them, what they mean, and exactly how to get the best out of them. So team instructions then, and we're going to start off with passing directness. I did a video on this a couple of years back, and it was my most subscribed video. So I thought, you know what, I can do that better. In that video, a lot of people were very kind in the comments saying I was doing very well at explaining it. There's two ways really to decide all these decisions that you're going to be making in the team instructions. There's two ways to look at it. First one, are you going to choose a style of play based on the players that you've already got? On FM, I like to use number two. This is what I like to do, but you don't have to do it. It's totally up to you. Second one is, are you going to put your philosophy into the team and then put players into that and then see which ones can hack it, see which ones don't work with it, and then sign players around it? Because on FM, you can go out and sign 10 players. In real life, it's not really realistic to do that. So let's start off with passing directness then. And this is something, well, they're all decisions to be made based off those two things, really. What do you want to do? So are you wanting to play short passing? If you are, then just go short passing. In terms of the second option, short passing is probably better for teams at the top of the league. I'm not saying that you can't get promoted and play short passing. You absolutely can do that. But if you are new to tactics and you're not quite comfortable yet with getting everything right, I would leave standard passing. If you are a team that's sort of expected to finish sort of bottom end of the table or bottom of the table, standard passing makes the most sense for me, because you're going to be coming up against teams that are going to be playing higher lines. They're going to come to your place or they're going to play against you and they're going to be thinking, right, we can beat these. So we're going to be put up the halfway line. We're going to be pressing. We're going to be probably on control or attacking mentality. And you're going to want to pass behind them into space. If you're playing short passing, this is not always the case. There's obviously exceptions. But if you're playing short passing and teams are pressing you, and they're better at pressing, and they're better than you, I'm not saying it can't work, but you're going to be asking a lot more problems. You're going to be getting a lot more problems and inviting a lot more issues for your team. So I would probably go standard passing on that one. Now, if you click on it, it gives you a couple of little things, pros and cons for each one. And I like this one personally, standard. It sort of lets players do whichever they decide to do. So a flexible passing strategy provides a balance between every playing short and direct, doesn't control possession as much as shorter passing styles, and doesn't build attacks as quickly as more direct. But you can change that based on other things. So, for example, you can put counter-attack on if you want to build up quicker, right? You can put tempo down lower if you're wanting to play a more control possession. So you can, everything offsets each other, right? And it's making sure you know how everything interacts with each other and to get the tactic that you want or what your team needs. So I like standard, but shorter, I would say, is for more technically better squads near the top end of the league, and more direct is teams at the bottom of the league. I like standard personally because it offers you a bit of both. Another thing as well is tempo, and that's really, really linked to passing directness. Standard passing and standard directness is actually very good on FM. If you're a top team, potentially you could go shorter passing and lower tempo, or short passing, standard tempo. I think that gets the best out of the better team because it drags people out. You've got much more trust in your players. But tempo is very, very, very important in your tactics. So again, if you are a team at the bottom of the league, I would suggest higher tempo. If you're a team near the top of the league, I would go standard or lower. I just would. I'm not saying, again, everything in this video, you can do the opposite. So you can come up from promotion and you can play short, lower tempo. It's just a bit harder for your team to do. And that leads me to the next point that I'm going to talk about right now is less is more in terms of tactical and team instructions. If you are wanting to make your own tactics and you're not quite sure yet, less is definitely more. I often, when building tactics, actually don't put too many instructions on. I sort of let them evolve organically, like based on what I want. And I've made some good tactics based on that, where at the end, they've had a couple more instructions, but it's because I knew what was going on. So if you go straight through your tactic and make it and go, right, short passing, high tempo, wide width, counter-attack, expressive creative freedom, less time wasting. I'm going to encourage them to dribble. I don't want them to be patient. I want them to hit curly crosses. I want them to not shoot from distance. Basically choose everything down there like that. You're going to get a team that's a bit pigeonholed. And by pigeonholed, if you don't know what that means, is you're going to get situations where you actually don't want your team to dribble. If you've clicked encourage dribbling, or you don't want your team to do a certain thing when you've asked them to do it. So I like to go neutral for a lot of things to start with. And then as I'm watching games, you can sort of see, oh, I need to change that. I need to change that because that's not quite working. My tactic is making us have a lot of the ball in this area of the pitch. So my players in this area of the pitch need to start doing this type of thing, or a certain thing, or maybe like more direct passing or less direct passing. We're losing the ball often. If you just suddenly start out with all things taked either way, you're not going to know which instruction is the problem. You're not going to know which one it is to take off, to put on. You're sort of just guessing. It's a needle in a haystack situation, and it's not going to help you at all. Attacking width, personally for me, I like narrower in FM. I just do. That's basically because I like my players to be closer together. So if you are a good team, wider is a better way to go. Stretches the opposition team's defence, easier to switch the play, provides less short passing options, and that's the reason why I think much narrower in FM is better, because pressing is quite overpowered. Like, we all like to use high pressing, high defensive lines. It's a bit different on FM26 with the out possession stuff. You can do a bit more now. You can play with more defensive tactics. I've uploaded one. I uploaded a video the other day about counter-attacking guy. That's above you right now if you want to check that out. Wider means that your players are going to be wider apart and there's less short passing options. So if you're a smaller team and you're playing with a wider width, you're going to be asking a lot, because the teams that you're playing against are better than you, the stronger than you, the quicker than you, physically better than you, the pressing you, and your players are further apart. So the margins are going to be so much finer when you're passing. You're going to make sure that pass is perfect to that guy there because he's further apart. Whereas if they're narrower, he's right there. So if the pass isn't absolutely perfect, he's probably not going to get it taken off him. Now, you can offset that by making one of your wingers or fullbacks or wingbacks or whatever stay wider in their player instructions, right? You can offset these things. Not everything's set in stone, but I do like, for example, narrower here, provides more short passing options, a better position to counter-press, plays more congested and harder to switch the play, but like I said, you can actually offset that with other things. It literally says their team's in much worse position to counter-press, so you're a much wider team and you lose the ball, but then you wanted to counter-press afterwards. You are asking so much of your team there. They're covering so much distances, and it's probably going to be something that's going to bite you by doing it. The next thing we're going to talk about then is counter-attack or hold shape, or even standard, on which one that you guys prefer. So this one is a big one. This one is a big one based on your tactic. This is like a sort of an identity-creating instruction that you're probably going to want to make sure you've got right. So I have used counter-attack and standard a lot more than I've ever used hold shape. I have used hold shape with good results, but it's just a personal preference. So counter-attack, I've actually been using now a lot less. So standard now for me is what I like to use. Probably I would say 75% of the time now. It used to be the opposite. I used to use counter-attack 75% of the time. And what I was running into problems that I ran into every single year on FM, where I started the season off really well, and then season went off a cliff, and I didn't know why. And then one time I was thinking, do you know what? I'm actually going to really look into these tactical instructions and look at them and think about them logically. And what can I do to sort that out, the mid-season slump that a lot of people endure, right? And it's this instruction here. It genuinely is this instruction here. As soon as I took off counter-attack off the majority of my tactics, I started to do a lot better. And the reason for that is quite simple, actually. So I'm going to sort of illustrate it here. A lot of us like to take teams from the bottom of the pyramid to the top. Not everyone, but a lot of teams like to sort of be the underdog team. We like to overachieve. We like to have the lowest wage bill. We like to sign players cheap and sell them high. It's just the football manager dream, right? The American dream, the football manager dream. It's just the same thing. We all love to do it. It's romantic. It's nostalgic. Everything's fantastic about it. But what happens is we come up through the divisions, our reputation is lower, so teams are playing against us as a lower reputation team and a newly promoted team most of the time, and we're using counter-attack, and it's fantastic, right? It's brilliant. We're counter-attacking against these big teams. We're beating the top 6 in the league, and we're upsetting everyone, and we're like, do you know what? We're top of the league. It's fantastic. What's going on? This tactic's amazing. And then we reach January, or December and January, even March for some people, and we lose 6 in a row. And we drop out of the playoffs or drop out of automatic promotion, and we don't go up, and we're thinking, well, the AI must have learned my tactic. The computer now knows my tactic. I have to start from scratch. No, that's not what's happened. It's as simple as this. What's happened is those teams are now taking you seriously. Second half of the season, they're not wanting to make the same mistakes they made against you in the first half of the season. So they're thinking about it a different way. So what they're doing now is they're playing with less space behind them, as you should do. If you start playing it, look at Arsenal in real life, right? I'm an Arsenal fan, so it happened to us, and I watch every match, so I know it happened to us. Back when we had the season when we played free-flowing attacking football with Granit Xhaka in the left half space and Gabby Jesus coming deep and all that, right? And Zinchenko coming inside, everyone was like, Arsenal are playing fantastic football. And we were only able to play that fantastic football because teams weren't taking us seriously just yet. It was a season when we just came fourth for the first time. And we got into the Champions League. And then once we started to become a serious team, now you're seeing teams sit back and now we're called boring. Because we have to be boring. If we played that same way now, we get counter-attacked and we'd lose. And we'd be 10th in the league. So that is the same thing that's happening to you. Teams are now starting to respect you more and sat back. So there's no space to counter into. So take the counter-attacking off. Your team will still counter-attack, but you will have a much more balanced approach, as it says there, a flexible approach to attacking transitions. So you're not always counter-attacking into this lower block, and it's just a nightmare. So take it off, seriously. It might just save your season. If you're starting to dip in form a little bit, and you've got counter-attack on, to be like, do you know what? I saw that Lewis video, that Lewis guy, and he said to take it off. Do you know what? I'm going to try it. Just try it, and then come back to this comment section and tell me how much it helped you, because I guarantee it did. Creative freedom, then, is the next one on the list, and it's more disciplined. Basically, this is really easy and really quick to explain. More disciplined. Do you want them to just stick to your tactic? Do you want them to rigidly stick to your tactic? Do you get confident in your tactic to be like, do you know what? This is going to work. The team maintains the shape better. They follow your tactics more. There's no room for individuality. Attacks are more predictable. I don't know if that's entirely true, to be honest, because you can offset it with different roles, and it says may restrict creativity. Yeah, it might do, but that actually it could be a good thing. If you're a manager that's really confident in your tactics, more discipline might be really good. More expressive. I like to use more expressive because I like to see players in different positions on the match engine. So I actually like that. Team is less structured. Teams won't follow your tactics as much. They seem to follow my tactics quite well, but I like more expressive. I seem to score more goals with it. And then balance is just a normal balanced one. But it's basically, do you want the team to stick to your tactics or do you want to give them some license? That is literally it. And they will try more through balls if you've got shorter passing on, etc., etc. Time wasting, I'll cover it because I'm going to cover everything. But really, if you're a team near the bottom and you want sort of to annoy the teams at the top a bit, I would probably go more often. Especially if you've got a team that's really good at set pieces as well. More often could be quite good. Play for set pieces, the same sort of thing to the last one. If you're going to go with more time wasting, you might as well play for set pieces. Let's jump down to the bottom here then, and we'll go to build up. So build up in possession. We're going to look at build up strategy. Now this is basically play out of defence. When the opposition engage your team in the press, encourage the team to stay composed and play through it whenever possible. The team will take more risks during build up and be more reluctant to clear the ball in an attempt to create chances in the transition after beating the press. It's fantastic. It's good. Again, everything tactically revolves around the players you've got and where you're at in terms of as a club. So are you newly promoted? If you're newly promoted, this one could be causing you a problem. If you've got some big, strong strikers and you may be playing with two up front, this could be really, really good. It could bully players, less risk of dangerous turnovers. You don't get counter-attacked as much, exploit space left behind opposition press. Again, it can be useful. And you don't want a possession style, no problem. You go for bypass press. Everything in tactics has got pros and cons, right? Everything has. So I understand when people are watching or thinking about tactics and they're thinking, well, which one do I choose? There's no right one to choose. There's just what you want or what suits the team that you're at. And I'm trying to explain to you which ones to try and think about maybe using more when you're either a newly promoted team or you're a team near the bottom, or you're a team at the top of the league. That's what I'm trying to explain to you and make it a bit more easier. And your seasons will be more successful if you pay attention to that and where you are. That's a lot to do in FM to do with it, because it basically means how other teams are going to treat you. Are they going to come and press? If they are going to come and press, then bypass the press. Play over the top of them, or at least make it balanced. If they are coming to pressure and they're these big, strong, scary teams, the Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, then maybe not Liverpool as much now, well, this season, but before, I probably wouldn't try and play through them. Look at when Norwich came up trying to play out from the back. It's just not going to work. I mean, it might, but it's probably not over a season. Another thing that might be slightly annoying you guys, and you might not have considered it, but hopefully I'm going to explain it in a good way. So when we had play out of defence as an option, people were just ticking it because it was like, yeah, I want my team to play out of defence. Yeah, of course I do. I want my team to look really good. I want them to play out of defence. I want my team to counter-attack. I want my team to play shorter passing. Yeah, we're all idealistic, but is it realistic? And when we clicked on the amount of people that I spoke to and the amount of people that I watched play FM, and they had play out of defence ticked in their tactic, and it also makes your defenders and your defensive midfielders play shorter passes, which makes sense. The amount of times I saw people complaining because their players looked for a pass that wasn't there and they got the ball taken off them because instead of clearing it long because you've told them to play short, they was actually sat there going, where is everyone? And then someone came in, took the ball off him, scored, and you was annoyed because, like, why is my defender not clearing the ball? Because you've told him to play short. You've actually told him to play short, and he can't find that short pass, so he looks like an idiot. But it's your instruction and your fault. Sorry, it just is. So all these things I'm speaking to you about, I'm not telling you which is the right one to do because there's no right one to do, but there's ones that make the most sense in terms of the club you're at and the players you've got. So I'm just trying to give you guys food for thought. I'm not here to say this is better, this is better, this is better, because they can all work. That's the beauty of tactics in FM, especially FM26. There's no better way to do it. I have so many people come into streams and comments and say, which tactics are best to use? It's like, what club are you? What players have you got? It all builds into one. As this is a build-up section, then these are all sort of going to lend into each other. Are you wanting to play out from the back as a newly promoted team? Yeah, that's fine. That is fine to play out from the back and play shorter, especially if you've not got a big man up front, right? It's fine to play short, but then don't make your defenders try and play through the press. They can easily go to the centre-backs inside the box, and then they can chip it into a midfielder, or they can just go forward to a full-back if they're on. I'm not saying you can't do that. And long again, I don't use long. I use short and mixed a lot more than I do long. That's probably because it's just me as a manager. But again, if you've got two strikers and they're good strikers, you can do that, especially if goalkeeper's got good kick in. It's a viable way to go. It really is, if that's the players that you've got in your team. Again, I'm going to be making some videos this year where I'm actually going to be testing the match engine and using tactical instructions that I don't often use to see if I can use them and make them work. So just because I've not used it much doesn't mean it's not a thing that you can use, but you can absolutely use short passing from a goal kick at all areas, really. You can. Right, now we've got goalkeeper distribution speed. So do you want him to slow the play down? And if you do slow the play down, it says it relieves pressure and it allows teammates to get forwards. Allows opposition time to regroup, less chance of counter-attacking opportunities. So again, there's pros and cons for everything. And I would say, as a rule of thumb, these are all rule of thumbs that I use. And I would say if you are a counter-attacking team near the bottom of the league, distribute quickly. It will give you opportunity to sort of catch them when they're sleeping a little bit. And if you're a big team, I would probably go slow pace down. And then finally, we've got goalkeeper distribution. Now, we've got balanced centre-backs, full-backs, flanks, playmaker, target forward, over opposition defence. These are all basically what they describe, right? There's not much I'm going to tell you here that's anything crazy. So I like to use centre-backs because they're allowed inside the box, sort of unattended, which is something that people mostly use in real life, right? That's what you see mostly. Full-backs, I would say use that if the opposition doesn't have wingers, really. Sort of they're playing like a narrow formation. That is perfectly good. They're sort of marking the centre of the pitch, go down to the fullbacks. Flanks, that's if you've probably got tall wingers, I would say. Plays around a narrow press, takes advantage of smaller opposition fullbacks. So you've got a 6-foot winger against a 5'8" right back. You might want to do that. Play ball to playmaker, that is quite risky because they're marked like it says there, and turnovers are more dangerous. But if you've got an exceptionally good playmaker compared to the level you're at, so all these things as well. Something else I've got to mention. I've just thought about that. So something else I've got to mention is if you're in the National League North, you can use all these things that are technically difficult. Everything's relative. Because you've got a player in National League North with 12 passing and 12 vision, and which is quite a good level. 12 and 12 is good in the National League North. In the Premier League, 12 and 12 is not good enough because there's going to be teams with 15s and 16s in anticipation, concentration, decision-making, positioning, stamina, natural fitness and acceleration. So they're going to be marauding and taking the ball off your players. But in the National League North, when you've got 12 passing, 12 vision, you're going to be playing against people with 8 aggression, 8 stamina, 7 tackling. So it's all relative. You can play good football in National League North just because you don't have the elite players. You can do it. I've heard people say all the time where, I can't play short passing. I can't ask my centre-backs to run out with the ball. You absolutely can. If you've got a defender in the lower leagues, a centre-back with like 8 or 9 dribbling, and you make him a ball-playing centre-back, or he's got 11 passing, 12 passing, you absolutely can make him a ball-playing centre-back because that is, again, you are asking a 12 passing, 12 vision centre-back, for example, to play passes against defenders that have got 8 marking, 9 marking, 10 marking. It's all relative, so you can absolutely do it. It's all based on where you predicted to finish in the league on FM. It just is. It's the way the game works. It's the way that the teams react and behave against you. Target forward obviously makes sense if you've got a big guy and over opposition defense. If you're noticing they're playing with the high line and you've got fast attackers, get the ball whacked over and make them think about it. Let's talk about progression then in the middle area of the pitch. Let's talk about supporting runs. Now this is obviously overlaps and underlaps. I never use underlaps. Now as something else that I'm going to be using more this year, underlapping run is made behind the opposition fullback's field of view. So the opposition fullback is marking the winger, and it's sort of coming down this side of him, right? It's coming in between, like in the channels. And the passing to overlapping player can be difficult to execute. It can, because if you pass in from wide, as he's running in, it's hard to collect. So you might get counter-attacked that way. So something to decide, something to think about. So if you've got midfield running from deeper at the end of the attacks, underlap on their side might be good because he's sort of coming unmarked into the box, especially if they've got good like first touch and technique. That can be very, very useful. Overlap is a bit more simple. It's sort of a bit more, we've always had overlapping fullbacks, right? Do you want an overlapping fullback? Doubles up on their position fullback, creating the 2v1. Run is often made from the outside of the ball carrier. So like, yeah. So when you, as a winger, that means as a winger, the fullback's coming from behind you, so you can't see him. So unless you've got telepathic relationship between each other, you probably might have some problems. If it's two new signings and your team dynamics aren't fully up to scale yet, the team cohesion, that could create problems. Overlap left and overlap right means that your players will look for the overlaps. It does make your wing-backs attacking a little bit more, but if you've sort of got like an overlap left, but then you've got a left-back and inverted wing-back, not really going to work together. I'm not saying anyone's done that. Dribbling then. Dribbling, are we encouraging dribbling? Run with ball often? Are we encouraging them to not run with ball often? Do you want your players to sort of focus on passing combinations, retains possession better? You're not as much likely to lose the ball by dribbling, obviously. And then obviously encourage on the other side, you can draw fouls. On FM26, quite honestly, this is probably especially in the final third, it's quite overpowered. It requires players with exceptional 1v1. It doesn't require players with exceptional 1v1 ability on FM. It doesn't. I like it on balance personally. And then if I want one of my players to dribble more, I will go into his player instructions. I like to use player instructions quite a lot because I don't believe a lot of the team instructions make everyone do it or no one do it. And I actually want to be able to pick if my left winger is better at dribbling than my right winger, then I don't want my right winger dribbling as well because we might get countered because he's losing the ball because he can't do it. I want to tell the players to be balanced or even discourage it, and then I'll decide who can do it because I know by their attributes, right? Progress through then is basically how you want to exploit the flanks. If you've played against a team that's a narrow formation, yeah, let's go down the flanks. It doesn't make sense to play through the middle and keep headbutting the middle of the pitch. Just go down the flanks, just go around them. And again, if it's a team that's defending quite wide and sort of pressing really wide, try and go down the middle of them, especially if you've got a very strong core of your team, a good centre forward or a good two centre forwards and some good midfielders. Why would you not want them to be playing on the ball a bit more often? If you want to play through the middle, it says puts more pressure on opposition defensive midfielders. If you're against a team with a defensive midfielder that's got like 7 marking and 7 tackling, it's more of a playmaker type, put pressure on him. See if he can mark, see if he can tackle, see if he can position himself. Try and play down the middle of the pitch. Seriously, like, why not? Feeds ball into attacking players in central areas more often. Attacks are more predictable. Less effective opposition defenders and midfielders play well. True, that's personally the reason why I like to play balanced and then decide on a match-by-match basis. If their right-back is not playing well and my left winger is playing really well or vice versa, then I will target that way. Or left-back's really tired and I want to sub a new right-back, a right winger on to play against that tired left-back, then I will, in some games, I will click that and we will play down that side because it's all about maximising the potential of your team and minimising the threats from the other team. Pass reception then is quite important. So pass into feet, pass into space or balance. We've always had this, right? Pass into space. Now, this is something that can be a problem if you guys, again, are a team at the bottom of the league. Right? If you're a team at the bottom of the league, I would go pass into space. Just because it plays more through balls, successful passes are more dangerous because they're going in behind, and he gets the most out of players with exceptional speed and movement. So if you've got quicker players, this can still work if you've not got the quickest or the best players off the ball, and it's more likely to give the ball away and passes are harder to execute. But because there's more spaces, if you're a team at the bottom end of the pitch, like I mentioned before, pass into space makes more sense because there's more space to pass into. On the other hand, a lot of people click pass into space as a default on their tactics. They like to go counter-attack, they like to go shorter passing, they like to go higher tempo, and they like to go pass into space. And then they run into problems like I mentioned before, where in January, the turn of the year, other teams now are playing deeper, there's less space in behind, you're still trying to pass into space, so all you're doing is you're passing into space and their big centre-backs are just heading it out. Or they're just going, thanks for that through ball. Yeah, the first game of the season when we played you, we actually fell for that. We actually fell for that, and you got in behind us. Now we're deeper. It's not going to work. So you have to change based on what's happening against you as well. I think a lot of people think, I've made a tactic, it's working really well, it's always going to work really well. It's not the case. If you've got like exceptional players, if you're Real Madrid or PSG, none of this probably matters. You could probably beat 99% of teams without any thought, really. But if you're wanting to sort of get the best out of your team and really overachieve, then these are the things you need to be thinking about. Passing to feet, I don't often use. I like to use balanced, like I said, especially if I'm sort of like consolidated myself in that division. I will go balanced. It's a flexible passing strategy. If the pass is on and the player's good enough to do it, they will do it. And a passing variety keeps defenders guessing. Loses the benefits of specialising. Yes, there is benefits, especially if you're team in the bottom of the league. You want to spam passes over the top. And also passing to feet means that the allows opposition to squeeze the space more. But if you've got really good players, you can pass around it. So Man City's, Arsenal's, it'll draw teams out. There's less space. Better ball retention, so you can draw teams out like I mentioned, and gets the most out of players with exceptional technique and composure. So we're going to talk about patience then, and that has got 3 options. Standard, as always, hit early crosses and works ball into box. Let's start with early crosses then. This instructs the team to play crosses into the box as much as possible. Again, if you've got bigger players, fantastic, because crosses can be overhit, they can go up in the air. Now, I know we can, obviously, we're going to be moving on to it in a minute, but we can change the type of crosses that we use. It can also lead to chances teams create are likely to be of a lower quality because there's a lot of defenders in the box. They're just going to clear the ball and harder to build sustained pressure. On the plus side, though, it forces opposition to defend balls into their own box and it's likely to create a higher volume of chances. So if you're a team that gets a lot of chances, the quality of the chances aren't as high, maybe consider working the ball into the box because, again, keeps the opposition pinned back, move around defensively because you're not waiting to just sort of ping the ball into the box. You're quite happy to play that extra pass and they're like, oh, please just cross the ball. Work ball into box is more patient, more higher quality chances. Yeah, you're not going to create as many, but the chances are probably going to be better quality chances and it requires a high level of technical quality to carve out those chances. If you're a team, again, near the bottom of the table, hit early crosses might be the way to go because you want more chances. You're probably not in a position yet to be asking for quality chances because you haven't got the quality players compared to the top end of the division. We're looking at trying to get the most because if we score 2 goals from 0.4 XG and we're 2-0 up against the team near the top of the league, we're happy with that. We're happy with that. Now, what could happen is, yeah, we could create 10 shots, have 2 on target and not score a goal against them. But you know what? Football's weird. We might. Opposition might make a mistake. We want to force the issue as much as possible. The more times we ask the question, the more times we're probably going to get a result out of it. Shoots from distance. This is one this year I would actively try to discourage it. And then through player instructions, I would, if a player's got 15 long shots or plus, or even 14, 13, 12 in a lower division, go for it because, again, you're looking at goalkeepers with 12 reflexes and 10 reflexes. And then to the crossing style, like I mentioned before, balanced floated crosses, whip crosses, low crosses. Floated crosses, if you've got a taller, good striker or back post wingers with good jumping reach, that's really good. Opposition can come and get it more. The goalkeeper can come out. Again, if you're playing against a team with a smaller goalkeeper that's not as good in the air, have a look at his attributes if you want. You can actually use this to target him. If he's a big guy, he's a bit of a lump, then probably don't go floated crosses. Go whip crosses because it's going to go harder for him to get down on the ground with these lower crosses. But just have a read through all these little plus and minus little things in the team instructions because they do actually give you a bit of insight into what you should use. But let's talk about the out of possession instructions then. And the first one is the lines of engagement. Low block, mid block, or high press. Now, I use high press a lot. I think everyone does. I think everyone's been sort of put off by this low block, especially maybe until FM26. It's something I've not used yet. I'm going to be using it this year, but it's something that we're all a bit not struggling to get right, but inviting pressure doesn't seem to have much of an upside, or it didn't before in previous FMs. This year there seems to be more customization, so we might be able to get that to work. I think we probably will. Mid-block I have used with fantastic success, I'm not going to lie. It says instructs the team to begin engaging the opposition in a press as they try to progress the ball into their midfield line, allowing their defenders time on the ball, but screening the options in front. So basically you just sat a bit further back and you're sort of saying, right, go into midfield. As soon as you go into midfield, bang, we're on it. And this can be very useful if you're a team that likes to counter-attack because you're sort of lulling them in to a false sense of security, right? And then there's spacing behind them once you win it to hit them. It can be really, really useful for that. So if you've got fast wingers, if you've got passing to space, mid-block as well is also very good with get stuck in because your players will actively try and win the ball if they're closer to it. and it can result in a lot of counter-attacking opportunities. High press wins the ball back in counter-attacking positions, can force other teams to play direct passes or clearances. That's fantastic. Can lead to dangerous transitional attacks when press is beaten. Yep, if you're over-pressing, that's a real problem in FM. A lot of people have it. They concede a lot of goals and then ask them what their tactics is, and they will have high press, much higher defensive line. They will have much more trigger press, and everything is just really extreme. And they're like, why am I conceding goals? It's like, well, you're asking your players to press in all areas at all times, and they might not be good at it. You might be playing against a good team. There's a lot of problems that could arise from that. Now, if you've got an elite team, go for it. But there is downsides that come with everything, and there's downsides that come with the high press as well. You might be over-pressing, and then they might have, for example, you might be playing a 4-3-3, right? And you've got a defensive midfielder, two centre midfielders, and they've got a defensive midfielder. And you're over-pressing and high-pressing, but as soon as you do that, they've just got an easy ball into their defensive midfielder because you don't have an attacking midfielder. So they've got an easy out, or they've got three centre-backs, you're high-pressing with one striker, and they're just knocking it around the defence. And they're drawing your wingers in. Your wingers are coming to press because you've asked them to press whatever. And then their full-backs are free, wing-backs are free, and there's problems that can be had, real problems with high pressing. Just consider if pressing that much or as much as you want to is worth it. Have a look at the match engine and see where actually the problems are arising, because the goals that you conceded might actually be leading and coming from the fact that you're pressing too high and over pressing, especially with wide areas. Wide areas are a problem. Wingers are ridiculously bad pressers in FM. Defensive line is next then, and this is sort of linked. If you're a higher press, you're probably going to be more of a defensive higher line. I like to think the way I use pressing in FM is mental attributes. Mental attributes are usually what's best to press. Now, obviously, your physical attributes are fantastic if you've got good stamina, acceleration, pace to get there quicker, but the decision-making behind it, the anticipation, the positioning, pressing is a lot more up here, I think. You can see good pressing systems everywhere. They don't have to be like elite physical players. You can have clever players, when to press, when not to press. Of course, it all works together, but if you have very physically good gifted players, but they don't know when to press, how to press, and who to press, you've just got headless chickens. The team that I like to use this example. The team that I've struggled with the most on FM with pressing me is Bayern Munich. It's always, whenever I'm managing Germany or I play against Bayern Munich in any FM, they seem to press me and I can't do anything about it. And then I go and look at their players. Kimmich, Goretzka, Thomas Muller, unbelievable mental attributes, just ridiculously strong mental attributes in all their midfielders. And I was like, do you know what? I think that's probably the case. And then what I did was I started building pressing systems with higher mental attributes. And I saw it. I saw the difference between a good press and an elite press. And I noticed that mental attributes in midfield especially, it's so key to a pressing system. It was night and day. So make sure you've got good mental attributes, in my opinion. A much higher defensive line compacts the space between the lines, which can be very good. Much higher chance of playing offside. You are more vulnerable to direct through balls, which we all know. And also, if your goalkeeper is not the best coming off his line and sweeping up, maybe that is an accident waiting to happen. Defensive line behaviour. Now, this is something that I don't often use. I like to use balanced. But this is something that can be used quite well, especially in a pressing system. If you've got a good pressing system, step up more can be really good. It compacts the space the other team have to play in, so they have to really think about, they have to play the through ball quicker, because if I don't play it, this player on top of me any second. So you can rush players into making these rushed decisions. And if it's teams that are not as good, then that can be quite good, right? You're going to get the ball back quicker. Drop off more can be less vulnerable to balls in behind. So you can be used to playing against quick strikers. You might be like, do you know what? I don't want to be leaving that much space. But it also concedes more space. So I like the mid ground. It allows the defense to make the best decision for themselves and also loses the benefits. Yeah, I guess you do lose the benefits, but if you're not sure which one to do, go balance. But like I said, if you've got a good pressing system and good mental attributes, step up more can be really useful. Or if you notice that teams don't have as quick strikers, then step up more, or wingers, and vice versa. If you've noticed that a team's got really quick strikers and quicker wingers, then drop off more could be definitely useful. Trigger press is a very important one, and I like to use more often or standard. I'm not saying the others can't work, but I just don't like to be extreme in my tactics. I don't know why, I just don't like it. I like to sort of make the decisions for myself in game, because every game is different. It's just the way I like to manage. But a lot of people do like much more often. Now, this forces other teams into making more mistakes. Correct, it does. And it gives other team much less time on the ball. But if, again, going back to the previous point, if your team haven't got the strong mental attributes and you're giving the other team less time on the ball. Your team haven't got good anticipation. They haven't got good concentration. They haven't got good decision making, teamwork, work rate, all that positioning. They don't know when to press. They don't know who to press. If you've not got very mentally strong players, then a high press sounds good in theory, but defense can be drawn out of position much more, and your team has to work much harder off the ball. So make sure you've got clever players if you're pressing less often. It maintains a defensive shape more, harder for opposition to draw your players out. So if you're against a team that's much better than you, then consider that. Allows other team more time on the ball and less likely to force other team to make mistakes. If the other team is very good on the ball, the chances are you're not really going to be able to get them to make mistakes anyway, so why would you be pressing and leaving space in behind? Defensive transition then, regroup, standard or counter press. Now, I like to use counter press. In the counter-attacking video that I used and uploaded a couple of weeks back, I actually had regroup set and it worked really well. It recovered to defensive shape quicker, so as soon as they got the ball, we were like, do you know what, have the ball. We came back. And now I was a team near the bottom of the league. I was Real Oviedo in La Liga, and it worked a treat because they didn't have any space to attack into. We weren't giving silly spaces and one-on-ones against my fullbacks. We were really good. We slowed the ball carrier down. We did do that. That made a lot of sense, and it just allowed us to be more solid. And we wasn't creating as much, conceding as many chances, which was really good. It's what I wanted, and it worked really, really well. Counter press is the obviously opposite of that, and it's a chance of getting the ball back really quickly. But we spoke about a lot of things in possession that might not be useful when counter-pressing. So if we're really wide in the attacking width and then we want to counter-press, you're asking players to come from a lot bigger distances. So there's things to consider when using all three of those things. I'm not saying you can't come up and be a promoted team and use counter-press. I've done it plenty of times, but I'm just saying if that's not working for you, consider thinking about changing it, because it could be that. Tackling is the next one then, and this is stay on feet, get stuck in, or standard. Now, a lot of people think that get stuck in means you're going to get more red cards. Now, you probably are, but not for the reason that you think. So get stuck in doesn't mean that you're asking your players to 2-foot everyone at the knee. It just means that, well, I'll read it to you. Encourage your players to be aggressive, engaging their mark as much as possible. Opposition, really. Mark should say opposition. I don't know why they're using 1960s mafia words. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, using their physicality and putting in tackles in order to win the ball back. Can unsettle the opposition players. Proactive defending can stop opposition attack earlier. Defenders can be easily more drawn out of position. So if you've got get stuck in on, but you're playing against Vinny Jr., and you've got a fullback that's got 12 tackling because he's a wing back, he's going to be jumping into tackles all day. Vinny Jr. with his 19-20 dribbling, it's just going to get past him. So consider that as well. I like to use standard. I like to use standard with a lot of things, and I like to use player instructions to sort of say, do you know what? My left back actually isn't a very good tackler, so I don't want him to do it. But my right back might be a good tackler, so I want him to get stuck in. It's all based on everything as a whole rather than, everyone just gets stuck in. That can create gaps and holes if players aren't very good at tackling or very good at knowing when to tackle. Also talk about pressing traps then. Trap inside. Ask the team to set a pressing trap designed to bait the opposition into playing passes to central areas before triggering a press, forcing turnovers in advantageous positions. Again, staff feedback here. Counterattacks start from a central position. So if you win the ball back, if you click trap inside here and you win the ball back in here, you've actually got a very good base because your counterattacks are starting. Like Jurgen Klopp said, there's no better playmaker than a good counter press because you can win the ball back in this area and then you're basically 3-on-3, 3-on-2, whatever, and effective against teams lacking technical ability. So if you're playing against a team that you've noticed that are not very good in midfield, trap them inside because you're asking their centre midfielders to do a lot of heavy lifting. They haven't got the facilities to do it, so try it. Defensive shape is more spread out, which creates more gaps, and central attacks are more dangerous if opposition beat the press. Again, consider what you want to do. Trap inside. I personally like trap outside and balanced. I don't like to bait teams into the middle. It just seems like it's asking for a bit of trouble. Doesn't mean it can't work. A lot of people, again, if you're using trap inside really well and effectively in FM, leave it in the comments and let us know what's happening and what else you're using with it, and we can all learn from that as well. Trap outside, I like that. Ask the team to set up a pressing trap designed to funnel the ball out to wide areas, because if the team's got the ball in wide areas, they're not near your goal, right? And that's the way I like to look at it. Where the opposition have fewer options on the ball, your players can compact central areas and screen passes into the middle, looking to force opposition into wide areas. Now, it's able to pin opposition against the sideline. Fullbacks and wingers don't have 360 degrees angles of players to pass to, whereas midfielders do, right? They've literally got a marker as a winger. You've got the touchline, so you can't go that way. So you've only got certain angles you can play at. So it works for that. Counter-attacks start further away from goal. So if you win the ball out wide, you've sort of got to get the ball into the middle to then score, and obviously more vulnerable to switch passes, right? So if you're all over that side, they switch the ball, bit of a problem. Short goalkeeper distribution then, yes or no? You don't get any standard with this, it's yes or no. So if you click no, it instructs the team to allow the opposition goalkeeper to play the ball short. The team will wait for the goalkeeper to release the ball before committing to a defensive strategy. I like to use that with a mid block. It sort of lets them come out a little bit and then you can go after them. Less vulnerable to direct balls, but then you're also opposition to build out from the back easier. If you notice that their defenders or their team isn't that very good at building the ball from the back, then allow them to do it. Man City did a very good job on Liverpool a couple of weeks ago with that. They battered them, and it all started from Haaland. Haaland's pressing against Liverpool's centre-backs was absolutely world-class. I really loved how Haaland treated the centre-backs at Liverpool. He actively let Konate have the ball at all times. He was marking Van Dijk because Van Dijk's passing off both feet is elite. So he was like, do you know what? As long as you guys at the back don't give the ball to Virgil van Dijk, we're good. And oftentimes, Konate had the ball, and he doesn't have as good of ball-playing ability, and Liverpool were struggling to build up because of that. And it was a very, very good... Watch the game back. It's literally happening in the first 5-6 minutes. If you can find a full match replay of that game, honestly, I would consider just having a look at it and watch the first 5-6 minutes and just watch Haaland when Liverpool have the ball in build-up. Another one is cross engagement. Do you want to stop players or invite players to cross? If they've got a big striker and you've not got the best centre defenders, stop the crosses at all costs because you're going to get dominated. Again, if you've got good defenders and you're playing against small strikers, invite the crosses in. Don't protect the central areas. Allow the crosses to come in and allow your centre-backs to head the ball out and potentially counter-attack the other team. A lot of people straight away will be thinking, right, no, I want to stop crosses at all times. That's absolutely fine, but consider the option that easier for defenders to be dragged from position. So they're going to try and actively engage it. That sounds good in theory, but again, if you're playing against these elite dribblers, in FM26 dribbling seems to be very, very overpowered. This could be causing you a problem as well. So I'm just here to explain how everything works, and then you're there to think, right, that could be causing me a problem in my tactic, right? You're going to have to be the guys to sort it out. I'm just here to give you the information. You're there to soak it up and then put it into your saves. I do hope that I managed to explain that in some decent detail. I think I did. If there's something that I did miss though, please write it in the comments and I will try to help out. Just drop a comment. It helps out everyone else. They might have a similar problem to you, right? Someone might be having the exact same problem to you and I might reply to it and you might help someone else out. So make sure you drop in comments. Make sure you're engaging. Make sure you're asking me questions if you're struggling with something because I can help. I think I can help. I should be able to help. The amount of hours I've played this game. Go out there then and be brave and make your own tactics and try changing a couple of things if it's not going well. If you did enjoy the video and you learned something from it, make sure you're leaving a like and also a subscription on the channel. There's a lot of you guys that are watching right now that aren't subscribed, so please help me out. Just scroll down a little bit, click that one button. It's absolutely free and it helps me out a lot. I'm trying to aim for 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, which will be a tough one, but you guys can help out by doing that. If you want to watch more of my content, right there now on the screen, there will be a video about counter-attacking football in FM and how to get it to work. If you're wanting to watch a video about how to create your own tactics, then that video is right there. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.